and happy Thursday, happy Thursday, happy Thursday. I just need to take a quick sip here. You know what I need? If any of you out there are interested in helping me every Thursday or once in a while, whatever your schedule allows, with producing these videos, I would love it. Because right now you've got me. And I'd love to have somebody with their phone so that they could be filming me, but then go to the food and then come back to me, and also help me just set up the Facebook Live event. Because if you noticed, about 2 seconds ago, I hit the go live button before I was ready to go live. I was setting up my camera, and so anyway, I deleted the video, but it gets kind of hairy around 10 to 12 when I'm getting ready for everything. So regardless, whatever. It's April 15th. Woohoo! It is tax day. How many, can I get a hallelujah? How many are excited about tax day? Well, I'm not. Some of you are excited because you get refunds. Some of you are not excited because you have to pay taxes, right? And so I think April 15th gets really a bad, why is April 15th just known for tax day? So I decided to do a little research, and I found out that not only is April 15th considered National Tax Day, but it's also considered, you guessed it, I don't even know if you can guess it, National Laundry Day. Seriously? Who wants to celebrate laundry? People who don't do laundry? Or people who are in the laundry business, perhaps? Maybe it's dry cleaning people or laundry services, but it's definitely not me. So I didn't care for that one, but today is also known as National Laundry Day. So I kept looking. And today is also known as National High Five Day. High Five Day. It's like High Five Day, right? And so I thought, okay, I can get around that. I can get around National High Five Day. However, it's a world of COVID. And if you're in the office, you shouldn't be high-fiving because we're not supposed to be touching hands. If you're working remote, you can't touch hands anyway, right? So you can do virtual high fives. So I thought, okay, but if we're in the office, then we could do National High Five Fist Bump Day, right? So Fist Bump Day. So that's what I'm celebrating today. Today is the National High Five Fist Bump Day if you're in the office, and it's High Five Day or High Five Day if you're on Zoom and you're virtual. All right, so I thought that I would share that a little bit with you as we open up and people get online. And since we start at 12:05, just to be sure that we've got some time after meetings and getting back to the office or wherever you watch this video at. So this month of April, we are talking about planting seeds and teaching people to fish, and from the perspective of development. So last week, I introduced you to this series that we're going to be talking about for the next 3 weeks. And I introduced you to the fact that the planting seeds concept comes from the book of Mark in the Bible, where Jesus is talking to the disciples and he uses an analogy or a parable of the mustard seed. Teaching people to fish is actually a Chinese proverb. And so I took those two concepts and put them together and said, okay, if we plant seeds from a development perspective, if we plant seeds in people to help them grow and grow and grow, right, to be this big, huge mustard plant, and we also teach them how to fish so they become accountable, they become responsible, they become autonomous, then that is an absolutely winning combination. So that's what this month is all about, teaching people to fish and planting seeds in other people. Now, if you're watching this and you lead people, then I want you to think about your team members. If you're watching this and you do not lead people, then I want you to think about yourself. I want you to apply these two concepts to yourself, because I live my life, and I have impressed upon this hopefully to my children as well, that we are lifelong learners, and we always should be learning, and we should always be on our toes and moving forward from the standpoint of continuing to grow, right? And that's what April is all about. It's about growth. It's about new beginnings. It's about the tulips blooming and the daffodils, and our lilac plants are starting to blossom. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time. In fact, our recipe today is all about tomatoes. So that was the title for the episode today. But we're focusing on a recipe from Alex Guarnaschelli, who's one of the chefs on the Food Network, and she was on The Kitchen, a guest chef on The Kitchen a couple weeks ago, and she introduced us to the herby stuffed tomatoes. So I chose tomatoes because Mike and I are going to be building raised garden beds. So we haven't had a garden since the kids were little, and they're in their 20s. And it really wasn't the traditional garden where you till the ground and you do all that. We have a terrace in our backyard, and the one terrace, it had rose bushes on it, and they had all died. We had not taken care of them. So we tilled up that area and planted tomatoes and peppers, and I think we might have had pumpkins or something, something fun for the kids. And that was 10, 15 years ago. Then we moved to container gardens because the bunnies kept eating all of our plants. I loved container gardens, but I wanted to do more than just tomato plants. So now that I'm into cooking, we're going to be planting herbs. We're going to be doing basil and rosemary and thyme and lemon and tomatoes and peppers and whatever else, because these beds are pretty big. So it'll be interesting. But anyway, we're doing raised beds to hopefully stop the rabbits. Okay, enough about all of that. So today is all about herby stuffed tomatoes and planting seeds. And I promised you last week that I was going to share with you a very personal story, which I'm going to do. But first, because I like to tease you guys a little bit, and Roxy is joining us today. First, I am going to talk a little bit about the herby stuffed tomato recipe, which is going to be my lunch today, and it is super, super duper simple. So you're going to start with vine ripe tomatoes. Okay, so you're going to take the vine ripe tomato and you're going to just cut the top off, so you end up with this little hat, right? So there's just this little hat like that, and you drizzle it with honey and with olive oil, and then you put it into the oven for 5 to 6 minutes to roast, which I've already done. Okay, so you're going to put it, and so it roasts and it becomes soft and just rather delicious, like the honey and the olive oil and the tomato. I don't think I told you. You hollow it out. So you take all the stuff out. Don't throw that away. You keep that. And so what we do with that is I have over here, we have garbanzo beans or chickpeas, depending on whatever you call them. The rest of the tomatoes, and we have some fresh ginger, some salt, some cumin, some arugula lettuce, which I'm not really much of a fan of, but I'm starting to become more of a fan of because I think I'm respecting it and how to use it. And then also some spinach and some fresh basil leaves. So you put all that together and then you stuff it. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to stuff it on right here on this one tomato that I have. So then you just put the stuffing inside, put it on a baking sheet, put it on a baking sheet with parchment paper, and then put it into the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. So hold that thought, because I'm going to do that. Now, you are not going to be with me when this is done, but I wanted to put it in there for 12 to 15 minutes. And then it comes out nice and roasted. So I'm just going to tell you the story about Dallas, and then we'll get back to the recipe in a little bit. It's pretty easy. And I'll have the link to it in the comment section. Okay, so I do want to, there's a part that I have to read that is pretty important. All right, so this whole excerpt is straight from my book. So I am, once I follow these videos always follow up with a blog that I put on my website and I send out on LinkedIn and on Facebook, and then I email it to my email list. So if you want to subscribe to my email list, or you have a friend who could benefit from some of my recipes or my leadership lessons, please get them to www.melissa-mccormick.com and they can sign up for my email list. So I write all this out. I give links to the video as well, which is kind of fun. Anyway, I want to talk about Dallas. I want to talk about planting seeds. So this was probably 10, 15 years ago, I hate to say, but back then I was traveling a ton around the world. And so I was on an airplane all the time. Out of 4 weeks a month, I was probably on an airplane 3 weeks out of the month. I was gone all the time. And so this trip, and I traveled, I was the kind of traveler, I don't know if you know this kind of business traveler, I'm guessing you do, that you get into the plane or the bus seat, and I had a scarf. And so I had this big scarf that also doubled as a blanket. So I would wrap the scarf, I'd get into my window seat, wrap myself with the scarf and around myself and around my legs, and get into like my little cocoon. And if I was going to be working, then I got my computer out and I was working. I was focused, or I would read a book, or I'd put my earbuds in and I'd watch music, or I'd try to rest. But I didn't want to talk to anybody. Seriously, did not want to talk to a soul. I wanted to be in my world, and I'm sure you're a very nice person, but I don't want to talk to you. That was the business traveler that I was. That changed on a flight to Dallas, Texas. And I have since that you, even if it's that woman with the baby that is walking down the aisle of the airplane and you're going, please, 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 please do not sit here, do not sit here, do not sit here, do not sit here, keep going, keep going, keep going, and they sit right next to you, you need to talk to her. So anyway, here I am on my flight to Dallas. Now this flight was at 6 o'clock in the morning. And I chose 6 o'clock in the morning because I needed to be there by Sunday afternoon. It was on a Sunday. I needed to be there by Sunday afternoon, and I didn't want to fly out on Saturday and spend my whole weekend in Dallas and not with my family. Okay, so I chose a 6 o'clock in the morning flight, which quite frankly was really stupid because I had to get up at 3 in the morning. So I had to get up before the break of dawn, drive to O'Hare in Chicago, which is about an hour 15 from here, and park the car, get on the shuttle, get through TSA, and get to the gate. So I did all that before my flight boarded. So now I am exhausted and I want to sleep. That's all I want to do is sleep. Now I'm not a napper and I really don't sleep well on planes, but I thought it's 6 in the morning and I've been up since 3, which means I didn't sleep at all, right? You go to bed at 10, but you're afraid that you'll oversleep, so you don't sleep. So I'm exhausted. Okay, it's time for me to board the plane. So I get in line, do the boarding pass thing, and get to the plane, and I see it's a small plane. So not only do I hate early morning flights, but I hate small planes. And so this is a plane where there's 2 seats on one side and 1 seat on the other side. And so I'm like, okay, please, 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 please. I don't remember what seat I selected. And so I was hoping that I had selected the one on the right-hand side, which was just 1-seater. Nope, no such luck. I'm sitting in a window seat on the 2-seat side, which means somebody's going to sit next to me. Okay, fine, whatever. They're going to get the hint that once I'm all cocooned up and I'm trying to sleep, they're going to get the hint that I'm sleeping or that I want to sleep, right? Okay, so I get all together and I'm all wrapped up and I'm resting my head against the window and I'm trying to doze off. And again, it's hard for me to doze. I constantly kind of have my radar on what's going on, but I'm trying very hard to doze as people are boarding the plane. And this man sits next to me. So I thought, okay, fine, whatever. And so I'm trying to sleep and the flight attendant asks everybody, do you want something to drink? I believe this is before we even took off, okay? And she said, is there something I can get you to drink? And the gentleman says, yeah, you can give me a Bloody Mary and a beer chaser. Whoa, what? Bloody Mary and a beer chaser? Now, I like my Bloody Marys and I like my beer. I don't know that I've ever had it at 6 o'clock in the morning, but I've had it for brunch on a Sunday for sure. But I thought, okay, it's kind of out there. What's going on, bud? So now I'm still trying to sleep or pretend like I'm sleeping. literally, I kid you not, literally, he took the Bloody Mary, downed it, took the can of beer, downed it, waved at the flight attendant and said, "Can I have another?" I'm like, holy smokes, young man. He wasn't that young, but holy smokes. What's going on, dude? I mean, he looked, so now I start looking at him. And he had a business suit on. It was a little wrinkled. He looked rough. He looked like he had been up all night long partying. And so I immediately started to create a story in my head of who he was. And another way to put that is I judged him. I judged him. We'll just call it out there. I did. I totally did. And I shouldn't have, but I did. So I'm like, okay, he obviously is in a bad place, or, you know, he had a whatever, partied last night, and he's a business person, and he was just up too late with his customers, and he's flying home to Dallas. I don't know what his deal is, but I'm tired, and I don't care. I mean, he seems to be handling things, so I'm going to close my eyes and try to go back to sleep. So I did. And I didn't go to sleep, though, right? So I closed my eyes, and I opened one eye, so I'm like, I peeked. I'm like, peeking. Did he finish his drink? What's he doing, right? Well, right when I peek, he's looking at me when I opened my eye, literally opened one eye. He sees me, and our eyes connected, and I'm like, oh, shoot, I'm gonna have to talk to this man, right? So he starts talking. He just starts talking. He needs to talk. So I'm like, okay, fine. It's obvious that, you know, my thought bubble is going crazy, and who knows what the look was like on my face. But I'm like, okay, sir, I want to sleep. I've been up since 3, which means I didn't sleep at all because blah, 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 blah. Of course, I don't say any of this. Instead, I sit up in the chair, adjust my blanket and whatever, and he starts to tell me his story. I didn't even have to say anything. He just started telling me his story, and he said, I live in Dallas, and I flew to Chicago for my niece's funeral. Whoa. I've done this so many times, and every single time I tear up. So I will get through this because it's a very, very powerful story. He says, I came for my niece's funeral. She was 20 years old, and she was addicted to drugs, and she committed suicide. In fact, I'm still in the suit that I wore at her funeral. I really didn't think that it was necessary to change. And so I just listen. I'm like, okay, first of all, holy smokes, do I feel rotten that I was thinking he was out partying all night long. And instead he's grieving with his family, and he's in a bad way. He's in a really, really bad way. So I keep listening, and he hands me a card. It was like a business card size, and he says, on one side of it was her picture. And now I don't remember her name. I really wish I remembered her name. I do not remember her name, but I remember her face. And I remember the long brown hair, a beautiful young lady, 20-ish lady, years old, absolutely beautiful. And so her picture was on one side, and you flipped it over, and the Serenity prayer was on the other side. And he said, we handed these out at the funeral, so if you would take this, and I want you to give it to somebody who needs it. And so, you know, we continued to talk. But I want to read you the Serenity prayer, because many of you know it, but you only know part of it, right? We all know the first stanza, or I don't know if it's a stanza, but we all know the first part of it. And so it goes like this. It is, God, grant me the serenity to accept things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, that's usually where we stop, right? That's what's on posters and motivational things that we put on our walls or that we think of. But it goes on. And it says, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking, as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I would have it, but trusting that you, God, will make all things right. If I surrender to your will, so that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with you forever in the next. Amen. And it was written by Reinhold Niebuhr, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. So that, to me, when I read that, and so the entire prayer was on that card. And when I read it, living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardship as a pathway to peace, taking as Jesus did, this sinful world as it is, not as I'd have it, but trusting that you will make all things right. I think we need to focus on that today, even though this message is about planting seeds and about developing others, and it's about two major lessons that I learned through this experience with this man. I think that serenity prayer, I don't think we should stop at the third line. I think we should continue. So I wanted to share that with you. I think it's really important for all of us, and it provides perspective. So this man asked me to give that card to somebody who needed it, and I did. I don't remember who it was, but I did. I gave it to somebody a couple weeks later. Now, he has no idea the seed that he planted with me. He has no idea the lessons that I learned from that our conversation. And I have no idea the seeds that I planted with him. We continued our conversation. We talked about God. We talked about faith. I tried to help him grieve. We talked about his niece and how just joyful she could be, and that she had this addiction she could not kick. We talked about suicide. We talked about all these things in his 2-hour flight. And then when we landed, he wished me well, and I did the same. And he went and met his wife and went home. And I will never, ever forget him. So he taught me 2 lessons, and this is what I want to get to today. The first one was about judging. The first one is so obvious that we should not judge, right? And when you do, I still judge. I do. I'm going to be really honest with you. I do, but when I do, I think of him, and I think about it, and I go, you know what? Everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. I have a story. You have a story. Your boss has a story. Your team members have a story, right? The employees that you lead all have stories, and we need to listen to them, right? And we plant a seed with them, or they plant a seed with us. So one thing, and this is just kind of a sidebar, is that as travel opens up in the world, from, as we get through this COVID, hopefully we're on the tail end of it. But as travel opens up and that person sits next to you that you really don't want to talk to, I'm not telling you to be the person that talks nonstop and talks really loud on an airplane when nobody else wants to talk to you. I'm not telling you to be that person. I am saying pay attention to their body language. Pay attention to if they want to talk, and offer a conversation. Get to know them, because you don't know if God put them in that seat because you needed to hear what they had to say, or they needed to hear what you needed to say. I think that's really important. And that was the second lesson that he taught me. He taught me about judging and that everybody has a story. He also taught me to pay attention to those around you, whether you're standing in the grocery line and there's nothing else to do but look at the person in front of you, or look at the the magazines, whatever. But as you're standing there, pay attention to who God puts in your path, because they're there for a reason. This man, that story, like I said, it's 15 years old. And since that time, I pay attention to the person sitting next to me on an airplane. And if they want to talk, I talk. I have tons of examples of how it's so crazy how God changed my seat. Literally, I won't tell the story today, but there's a story where he changed my seat on an airplane so I could sit next to this man who delivered Bibles in Syria when he wasn't supposed to, or Turkey, or I think he went to Turkey and he was supposed to, and he was on the border of Syria and he was delivering Bibles and he wasn't supposed to. That he was a really awesome old man. He was older, but anyway, I digressed. Okay, so we're talking about planting seeds, right? And so I want you to, first of all, I need to finish the recipe, but I want you to take away with this. I want you to be intentional with, if you lead employees, I want you to be intentional with planting seeds with them. And when I say planting seeds, I mean development seeds. I want you to be intentional. I want you to think about your team members right now and who's high performing, who's a go-to person, who do you lean on to help get the last minute project done that the boss called, and said, hey, I need this done by 5 and it's 4:30. Who is that person? And I want you to pay attention to them. I want you to plant seeds with them that they will continue to be engaged in your organization and stay. Because if you have a person on your team that is a high performer or high potential, if you're not paying attention to them, they may leave. They just may leave, and that you do not want. Now, if you do not lead a team and you're listening to this personally and you want to make more of an impact in your organization, I want you to go to your boss. I want you to prepare first, but I want you to go to your boss and I want you to say, hey, I can do more. I want to do more. I may know what I want to do, or I may not know what I want to do, but would you help me? Or would you point me in the right direction? Or would you, tell me what I need to do and plant some seeds with me? So you need to plant that seed with your boss that you are willing to make more of an impact, even if it doesn't mean a pay raise, even if it doesn't mean a promotion. I'm ready because I want to invest in this company and in my future so I can have more of an impact. So that's the first start of planting seeds. Next week we're going to talk about, we're going to move into teaching them to fish and in the moment decision making. So teach them to fish. I'm really big on helping your employees know how to make decisions on their own. Decisions that obviously are within their role, but making those decisions on their own so you can do what you need to do, right? So that you can spend time on the business and growing the business, and they can spend their time doing their role, and everything kind of works like a well-oiled machine. Okay. So that is what I want to do. So back to the tomato. So here's how it comes out of the oven. So beautiful like this. All you're going to do to finish it off, I have some freshly grated, like too much, freshly grated Parmesan cheese. You're just going to sprinkle it on there, and voila, my lunch. So there we go. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember to stay on your toes. Be proactive in your development and always move forward, always growing. Thanks so much and take care, everybody.